Well, in 1964, Vauxhall opened up the state-of-the-art new design center. And from my perspective, it was the finest facility really in Europe. And they had some great vehicles in the pipeline that were being developed. And from a design perspective, we wanted to show the design abilities and the engineering abilities of Vauxhall with an aspirational vehicle. And designers love two-seater sports cars, and that's what became the XVR. Now, GM had also had a lot of success with concept cars. We wanted to be one of the first in Europe to show concept cars. Now, the XVR had a center hinged windscreen with a glass wrapped right around the side. Now, that was really a unique feature at that point in time. It was very wheel-oriented. The surfaces pulled out to embrace the wheel packages. The engine cover was a clamshell to open forward. The boot also opened to the rear. So on the show stands, you know, the whole vehicle would open up and expose the interior and the structure that was in the vehicle. The vehicle that went to Geneva was on time, March '66, dark British racing green. And that was the vehicle that was later, as a prototype vehicle, registered for road use because engineering continued developing on that vehicle. Now, as we sit here and look back at the car today, we would have never envisaged that, you know, 50 years later we'd be sitting here talking about a car, but we wouldn't if we hadn't hidden the car away in a container many years ago. No, this is important. I really wanted to make the point that in all these vehicles, you know, the XVR, the SRV, all the vehicles that we did, we had just an exceptional design team. You know, we had so much talent in our design team. I think we had the best design team in Europe. And we also had the facilities and the shops to produce all that work and show it off to the best, you know, possible way. Well, the XVR was very successful as a concept vehicle, but 4 years later, we wanted to do something that was really different. You know, now for something totally different. This was all about design. This was a design vehicle through and through, and we wanted to look at packaging. We wanted to look at aero. We wanted to look at new configurations of vehicles and a new form vocabulary, and also I think there was a lot of interest around the Le Mans type cars with the Lola T70, which is a beautiful long-tail car, even more so with the 917 Porsche. And to do a four-seater, I thought was much more of a challenge than to do a two-seater. I mean, everybody likes to do a two-seater sports car, but to do a four-seater, and which also has the hatches to get in the back, and then the front, when the door opens, the instrument pod swings out. And it's also about this cab-forward design that was taking place at the time, and really in racing cars, Formula One cars, sports cars. So to redo the packaging, the driver's forward, there's a transverse engine in the back, all packaged within the wheelbase, and seats in the rear. It might be a couple jump seats, but there were seats in the rear. And then the hatches that open in the back to give it a little additional action to the vehicle. And when we looked at the front, the whole idea was also to create the look of aerodynamics, not only being an aerodynamic car, but to be perceived as very like a streamliner. So it was also, we rationalized that it would be a test vehicle, a research vehicle, to have a lot of testing equipment on it. But it was purely design, purely aero, and purely a look into the future. And there isn't anything on that car that I would change today. Yes, I did. It was quality begins with design. And what I mean by that is the visual quality of the vehicle affects every aspect of the vehicle. Design is involved with every aspect that the customer comes in that they see or they touch or they feel. You know, for example, the beauty of the exterior vehicle, the sculpturing of the exterior of the vehicle, right down to what sort of feedback do you get when you move a control on the instrument panel. It's all about design, and that's the quality of the vehicle. I think all designers, you know, are fascinated with Formula One. I mean, it's the ultimate form of racing, and I'm still very passionate about Formula One. You know, follow all the races and follow all the vehicle developments, and you know, and technically how the cars advance even through, you know, each season. But probably from a design perspective, the Le Mans prototypes are really the wild cars that fascinate designers, and they're interested in designers because they're fully enclosed, particularly the enclosed cars. I mean, they are just awesome. And they have all the shapes and ins and outs and the graphics, and you can almost read functionally what they're supposed to be doing. So I think from a design perspective, those cars are really the exciting cars for us. Now that's a really tough question because there's so many influences that have taken place over that period of time of 50 years. As far as actually designing the vehicle, in the sense of designing a vehicle, math or the computer has been a huge change. Not only in terms of the detailing of the vehicle, but right down to the fit and finish, and the fact that everybody that's involved with developing a vehicle, design, engineering, and all the other disciplines, can work simultaneously together. And that's what's really improved the speed and the accuracy and the quality of vehicle design as we know it today. Now in the interior, there's been a load of technical, you know, input into the interior, which the interiors have adapted to that. And in some ways, there's some distractions in there, and distractions with phones and texting and other things that people shouldn't be doing. And now there's technology going into the vehicles to warn, you know, about lane changing and automatically stopping the vehicle, or, you know, new ways to view the cameras around the vehicle. And then the next move, of course, will be that technology helps people drive the car because they're being distracted. The next move will be to take the person out of driving the car and have autonomy cars. That'll be a huge change. I think electric cars will be a huge change. They haven't really changed now. They're kind of normal cars that are driven with electric motors and batteries, but that will also start to change the packaging and the configuration. Then over the years, the integration of bumpers has made a huge difference in the form of a vehicle with the flexible materials. The other thing that's more recent is just look at what's happened with headlights and lighting. It's a whole new design vocabulary for the front of the vehicle with the lighting capability that's available now in all sorts of forms of LEDs and various types of lights. Sensational difference. Well, I'd have to say the Chevette, because the Chevette was a General Motors Worldwide International program, and referred to as the T-car program. And initially, it was a two-door, four-door notchback car and an estate car. But at Vauxhall, in design, we had been doing so many hatchback vehicles. I was fascinated with hatchback vehicles, and we did a number of internal concepts, and we had convinced management that this is a way that we ought to be going. And they convinced General Motors that this vehicle should be added for Vauxhall. And I had the opportunity to go back to the States where the initial vehicles were being put together, representing Vauxhall, developing the hatchback vehicle, which then at that time became the first vehicle hatchback of that size in the UK, and for a number of years was #1 in sales. And I know a lot of people have said that vehicle was very, very critical at the right time for Vauxhall in the total history of Vauxhall. That was a crucial time and a very successful car. Well, fortunately, I've been involved with a number of companies doing some consulting work. But from my own perspective, you know, it's hard for a designer to stop designing. So sometime after I retired, I started designing an open wheel sports roadster type of vehicle. And I did a lot of sketches with it. I did package drawings. I made an Oscar to fit in the package. It was my height. And I wanted it to extend the Cadillac form vocabulary that we had put together with art and science. I was very much involved with that new design direction for Cadillac, and I wanted to do something that sort of captured that look and feel. But I didn't want to compete with General Motors, and I didn't want to do an open wheel sort of sports rod type of vehicle. So, and it also had in the first generation CTS-V, which we're getting the performance version in the new direction for Cadillac was very important. So this car with this CTS V Series engine, totally hand built. Every part in the car was built from scratch, and then with the form vocabulary of the latest direction that we'd set for Cadillac. So that was an exciting program. Unlike, a lot of people said, well, you're doing your own vehicle here, so I'm sure you don't have to make any compromises. And I thought about that for a second. But when you think about General Motors and the vehicles, whether it was Vauxhall, Opel, or whether in the US, the facilities that we had and the incredible skills and talent of all the people, they could do anything for a concept vehicle. Where when you do one on your own, you have to think about all the little shops that you're working with, their capabilities, what's it going to cost, how much time is it. So you take a very different look at this. And it was eye-opening, and it was educational, and it was exciting. And again, from making the transition from working to retirement and while I was doing some consulting, it was probably just exactly the right thing I should have done.